All right, we're here. And the queen is dead. The queen is dead. Did you care about that?
I actually thought you were talking about me.
The queen,
That's so bad.
Queen Elizabeth, not Queen Neeza. Okay, you're alive.
That was so bad. I'm like,
You're alive and thriving. So it's
yeah,
definitely. What is that? What did I just do? That was the R.I.P. music for Queen Elizabeth. I have no idea how that happened, so I do apologize.
Oh
But my parents really got into that. They literally saw all the services, the funeral, the reporting of it, the people getting interviewed about it, and I'm just looking at my mom
sweet.
like,
That's really sweet.
I know that was like a very iconic figure, them growing up. I really didn't pay much mind to it.
Yeah.
But I guess that was sweet. We're gonna call it that.
No, that was really sweet.
Whatever.
That was like so not sweet of you
But
to
no.
hear.
R.I.P. to Queen Elizabeth. How old she was? She was like 86? 96. 96.
Yeah, sounds good.
So she lived a very prosperous and healthy life, I feel like.
Yeah. I can't believe you just brought her up.
Because it was all over the news.
Right.
It was all over the news. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to kind of put it out there. To just let people know that I cover current events, guys. I am in
and
tune.
then you don't care about them, but...
And I am in tune with the current events, whether it be worldly events or even like culture events. Like
what?
sadly to say, I hate to bring up like when rappers die,
Okay.
like when
yeah.
when Pop Smoke died, and what's the other guy that recently died? PNB Rock or whatever his name is. He did a song with Trippie Redd. Neeza's like, I have no idea who you're talking about. I have no idea.
You are such a good citizen.
But yeah, I hate talking about death, and I don't like to lead conversation about death, especially on the show. But it seems to happen, like, because I still listen to secular music, so don't judge me. I still listen to hip hop. I got into drill music. Do you know what drill music is?
No.
It's like a hip hop genre.
Oh, I like hip hop.
Yeah.
But drill music doesn't sound right.
It's like, drill. What are you drilling? It's like, are you making music with a jackhammer? But
that's honestly what like went through my mind.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, more like rock-ish. But
Yeah.
I like hip hop.
I like hip hop. It's kind of like my guilty pleasure. I love binge watching shows when I should be doing other things.
So you're the type that like doesn't. It's not every week.
Yeah.
You have to wait
Are you currently watching a show?
No, but I really want All American to come back. So it's been like not happening for a while. I know, I'm so sad.
Did you watch the spin-off show?
No,
Homecoming
I did not.
or whatever the heck it's called?
No, I did not.
I think that's such a
Somebody
bad
said I should,
storyline.
but I
it's
didn't.
a dumb storyline. Who cares about her?
I just wanted to come back.
I just feel bad for Jordan. Like, for those who don't know the show, tough. And I don't know why this keeps coming up. This is really going to bother me. You hear the piano, guys? But yeah, I like that show. All American is and it's based on a true story, which is awesome.
Which we love.
And we love football.
We love football.
We're going to get into that in a little bit. That you not just love football, but you actually play football. This girl right here, for those tuning in on YouTube and see this frame right here, she plays football, guys.
Flag football.
Probably better than some of y'all right now. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But yeah, I like watching shows. Like, I have practically every streaming platform. I mainly use Hulu. I mainly use Netflix, and I got Disney Plus through the Hulu bundle package. Yeah. So I have the Disney Plus.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I just realized I binge watched a show recently. Never have I ever. But that probably sounds biased because I'm Indian.
Yeah.
But it was so funny.
Was it?
I was like laughing, but then I was also like crying a lot too because I was really sad.
Now, what's the premise behind that show? Because I have it on my to-do queue.
It's like
watch
an
list.
Indian like mom and like
Yeah, I
girl,
saw that.
and I mean their dad passed away, so she's like kind of rebellious,
Yeah.
and she wants to like get out there with the popular kids, but she's
Yeah.
a dweeb, you know. So it's just like so funny. It's so funny, and a lot
it's
of
on Netflix, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have it on my to watch list because I did see it. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's so good. I binge watched that, and I don't really binge watch except reality TV. I like stuff like that.
Reality TV.
Like Bachelor in Paradise.
I don't know why this is doing this. Why is it doing this? Please help me, God. The piano just wants to play today. Yeah, I mean, I love watching. Like, if I'm really into a show and the entire season's available for me to watch, and I don't have to wait on a weekly basis.
Yes.
Like, I'm watching that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As much as I can.
Yeah.
As much as like my time allows.
But I don't love TV like that.
Oh.
But then when I find shows like that, then obviously I have a problem.
Yeah, because I don't. Yeah, because like I don't get on TV unless I already have it pre-planned that hey, I'm gonna watch All American. Yes. And I'm gonna watch 2-3 episodes to catch up or whatever.
I loved This Is Us, but that's over.
Yeah, This Is Us is over.
So sad.
That was yeah.
Married at First Sight, Australia.
No, I didn't see that one.
I know you're not.
I saw the
you're
one. I saw the one. What's the actress that did Couples Retreat? Or Forgetting About Sarah. Forgetting About Sarah Marshall.
That has nothing to do with it.
What's her name? She
no
did a Netflix series called The Woman Across
the Sea?
No, the woman in the window across the it has this long name. And I saw that and it was like a thriller, but it was one of those mystery thrillers.
Oh, I like mystery.
Yeah, like mystery thrillers, like who murdered that person if it wasn't the neighbor.
Ah,
you know, it was one of those.
I do love those.
And I got really hooked on that.
Murder mystery.
So yeah. We love shows. We just don't love TV. So, but how you been? It's been forever since I've talked to you and seen you.
Yeah, we were just talking about how we met 10 years ago.
Literally 10 years ago, I met this girl.
Yeah.
And for those that are just tuning in, because I know you guys fast forward to the good stuff. This is Neeza. She was like one of my first like friends that I made within the church community. Because I was very, 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 very new to the faith. And we met at Christ Fellowship at the young adult little ministry that they had small there. Group, Small group, young adult. Young adult. And I met you and a slew of others there, but you kind of just became my tribe. And it was funny too, because like I remember talking to certain individuals and says, you know, Neeza has her way. She has her way of like if she accepts you in her tribe, you're special. You're it. You're it. Yes. So I was like, okay, so I guess I'm special.
Aww, you were very special.
So that's how like I got to know what you were all about. Like you had this thing, but it's good to have intentionality of who you allow in your circle. I think that's pretty cool. A lot of people take it the wrong way, like, oh, she's uptight, she's a snob, she doesn't want to interact with people, and you're just very protective of who you allow in your circle, and I respect that. I respect that.
I'm glad you're saying that out there. I'm like, I feel like still to this day I struggle with people like not understanding.
And I think people who just don't know you. I mean, I'm the type of person that really, I can literally hear from a third party and say and have that third party say, yo, she's nothing but trouble, she's this, she's that, or he's this and he's that, and I'll nod my head and be like, oh, for real, cool, but I want to find out what you're talking about.
And that's
so that's basically how I navigate through life. Even before church, like I would hear about certain individuals that were a kind of way. I just always felt like I needed to know for myself what this person is all about. And if they're not for me, they're not for me, and I'll just keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
But 9 times out of 10, I would always get along with that person that was supposedly...
Yeah, but you're like a nice person.
Am I, though?
Yeah, I don't think anyone has a problem.
Am I easy to love? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, like you're very likable and lovable, and you don't understand. But it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Being misunderstood is definitely something
that and I felt that too, because like you just took the words right out of my mouth. Like I felt that. I was like, yo, maybe people are saying things or making these assumptions or assessments about Neeza because they just don't know any better, and they just maybe they don't know, and maybe they don't know well enough to just be intentional about getting to know you, because maybe you are misunderstood. And I kind of felt that. I was like, yo, she keeps it real, and I appreciate it. I guess that's like the New York in me. Like in New York, you got to keep it a buck with everybody. Like we can smell fake from like a mile. So it's like you kept it so real, and like you were raw, you were real, and yet in a subtle way, you were very nourishing and very like hospitable, but you were ready to slap someone across the face if they crossed you, you know? You just kept it that G. And I'm like, yo, I could respect that. You know what I'm saying? So like, I totally got it. Because I look back and I step back for a bit. I'm like, yo, maybe she's misunderstood because I was misunderstood. In the opposite way. People thought that because they saw a baby face growing up, even when I was in high school into my freshman year in college, like they saw this baby face guy, Latin guy with green eyes, light eyes, and they just took my kindness for granted. Little did they know, before Christ, I was this savage, bro. Like, don't F with me. Don't F with me.
I feel like I could have seen that, though. Like, I don't know how anyone...
Like, I got pretty... Yeah, I had my fair share of fights, fist fights, and weapons were drawn at some point in my life that I'm not proud of. And it's honestly through the grace of God that I'm still here. Because I look back before stuff that I did before Christ, and I'm just like, wow, that could have gone left so fast, so quick. I could have ended up in a different place and different, you know, the timeline would have looked different. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, God's definitely been on my side since day one. I feel like even prior to receiving Him as my Lord and Savior. So that's kind of a crazy, like when you reflect back and like I reflect a lot now that I do podcasts, because every time we talk about people's experiences and stories, like I look back at my experiences and my stories and I'm like, wow, like I've gone through some stuff. Like even after I received Christ, I've gone through some stuff, because spoiler alert, boys and girls, like once you receive Christ, it doesn't get any easier. You know what I'm saying? Like navigating through life does not get any easier, but it gets simple, if that makes sense, because the simplistic thing about it is that you have a Heavenly Father to run to. You have a Father to seek refuge in. You have a Father to communicate with openly. And that's a game changer, at least for me. I can't speak for every Christian, but for me, that was such a huge game changer for me, because like I was in the dark for a really long time, and mentally I wasn't well. So.
And I feel like, I mean, I've told like my Bible study girls and everybody, like, I mean, we're going to go through trials no matter what. Like, I'd just rather have God with me.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
You know, it's either either you have Him or you don't, but like the trials don't end either way, you know? So you might as well do it with God.
And I can speak to that too, because I lived a life without God. Like, well into my late teens, early 20s. You know what I'm saying? And so I guess I could call that a blessing, because like I know what it feels like to live a life without God.
Sure.
And then as I'm living my life with God, it's the complete opposite.
Absolutely.
Like it's literally day and night. And I could never go back.
Yeah.
I could never run to the world, you know what I'm saying? And seek,
at least not permanently.
Right. And seek refuge in the world and hope in hopes that the world can hold me. Right. Like this world can't hold you. You know, you weren't created for this world to hold you. It will always fail you. And I learned, like, through the process of walking my faith out and my salvation out, that it's so much better with God.
Right.
It is so much better with God.
I agree.
So, but the Queen is dead. And we love to binge watch shows from time to time. And we've known each other for 10 years. And our communication has been pretty steady. Life does happen, and we disconnect for a little bit.
But it was like, it never...
But thank God for social media. Because we follow each other on social media, so we keep tabs on each other through social media. So you've known my stuff. Yeah, I haven't seen him in a long time, but when we saw each other, it was like old times. Old times. Yeah. And that's what's great about our relationship, that every time we do link up, it's always like a celebration, I feel. It's always fun. And we can talk about, stuff and anything. So it's pretty cool. But I wanted to have you on the show because as we're continuing this series of talks with a female perspective, and I kind of like unofficially dubbed it "Your Story Doesn't End," because I feel like when we are in turmoil and when we're at our wits' end, right, we feel like our story's over. And we place a period where God usually wants to put a comma in, right? Sure. Our world's ending, our, the walls of Jericho are like, this is it. This is it, And so I just wanted to have a female perspective on things because like, I've always wanted to be intentional with having a perspective opposite from me, through the lens of a female. And so I just came to a conclusion like, wow, I have 40 plus episodes and I've literally had 2 girls on the show.
Wow.
So I was like, you know what? I wanted to start this initiative. So last episode, it was Stacy. Shouts to Stacy. She did an incredible job. She shared a lot. She even shared about her daddy issues that she didn't think she had until later on in her life. It was crazy. And then Vanessa, she talked about her toxic relationships, and she talked about finally, becoming independent and being an independent business owner, and how that shaped her and molded her to be a woman of empowerment and to help other women to feel that empowerment. And so that was real cool for her to share. So I hope that those stories, resonated to some of you girls that do listen to the show, and even guys. Guys can be encouraged by a female perspective. And so I wanted to have you on because you're my best friend, and I love you, and I know that you have a pretty cool story, and you've come from a place of gain, a place of love, a place of loss. Even you experienced loss, you experienced what everybody experiences, and you were able to deal with it and able to kind of navigate through it in your way. And you've definitely have some things to say about relationships and how the world looks at dating and how the Christian faith looks at dating, and we'll kind of tap into that. I think off camera we were kind of talking about that. I'm like, save it for the podcast, save it for the podcast. This is so good. So we're gonna try to like relive that relationship. I feel like every time I yell, this piano just turns on automatically. I hate it.
It's great music.
So we kind of wanted to talk about just your personal experiences and just to put on some perspective on what it is to be a woman in 2022, right? Because a lot of women out there, even young ladies out there, they feel the pressures of feeling validated, feeling accepted, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending on what side you're at in the conversation, we live in a social media driven world. Sure. Like everything that we are influenced by is in front of a screen, and we always and I'm guilty of it. I'm always catching myself scrolling. Yeah, scrolling for sure. Scrolling always on my phone. And scrolling, and we're always on the phone. And I feel like I want to be intentional to lower my screen time, because you know how if for those who have Apple. Which Apple has a crazy way, in a funny way of reminding you, like, hey, you've been on the phone for XYZ time.
And too much this week.
Yeah, way too much. And I look at it, I'm like, that many hours? Yeah, that's crazy. Like, how many hours of sleep do I get, So it is what it is. That's our reality. For young women out there, it's just, I could empathize a little bit. I could see the pressures. I could see that you have to have a certain look to be accepted in certain circles and certain social circles and things like that. And so I just wanted to talk about that first, and then we'll kind of lead on to other things that we like to talk about. But
like the two things I see, like social media wise, like when it comes to dating, men, women, like I just see a lot of like cheaters, like where it's like socially acceptable. Yeah. Cheating, like, you could be married, not married, like the men can do it, the women can't, like whatever it may be.
It's that double standard.
I see a lot of like, just there's no trust anymore. Yeah. And like that's just, it used to be like two huge factors, like loyalty and trust. And I just feel like that has really declined like over the past few years, personally through social media.
And what conversations do you have with your sisters in Christ when it comes to those certain topics, like we can't curse in the show, but the F-boys and the toxic relationships and all these things? Like, how do you guys navigate through all those conversations, and especially when you guys are single and possibly entertaining the idea of getting into a relationship or even putting yourself out there in the dating scene? Like, how do you guys navigate that now in 2022?
Well, I don't feel like there's that many like single like Christian women, like my age anyway. Sorry, I'm 33. So
you're not old.
Yeah. So I'm just like, well, let me just rephrase that. But a lot of my friends are married, like at this point, So the few that I have, like, it's more, especially the Christian world is different. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a whole different lens and like perspective. Like, if I was still single at 33 without God, it would look different for me, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
So now it's like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I find anyone? You know, versus if you're with God and you're walking with him, you're very much like, you know that God has like someone for you, and like it's just not the right timing, or you know, whatever. It's like, it's just like two extremes in my opinion, you know. So the few girls that are still single, that are not in the Christian world, they're very much like, they just want anything, you know, like there's no value, like, you know, driven type of like, you know, perspective. There's it's just whoever will give the attention, and they will settle, and you know, they'll just take what I've noticed is like, they'll just take what's convenient, even for a moment, and like deal with all the toxicity and like every like bad thing that comes with it. Because like, say they have a kid, and like the guy watches the kid Tuesdays and Thursdays of the week, but then like is a jerk throughout like the entire week, you know, but like for the 2 days of babysitting, the girl will stay, you know. And so it's like very low standards, or no standards at all. That's what I've seen. And then in the Christian world, it's very much like, you know, like I mean, is he even out there? You know, like, does that man exist?
Right.
Like whoever I think in my mind, or whoever God has for me, excuse me. Because from what I see, the men, that's declining the character, or it's just a bunch of immaturity, or like boys. And I'm not saying that women are not like that either. Please, like, understand, we're also like that, but this is from our view. Like, me personally, like, I don't know very many man enough to be with me. You know? And I don't even want to like come off like, I don't know if this comes off badly, but I'm not, you know, I'm just being like so honest that that's how I feel. That may not be true, but that's how I feel.
But to the mature, I feel like to the mature person hearing that, they'll say, wow, she knows her worth. She's high value. She knows what she brings into the table. And she definitely has an identity. She doesn't have an identity issue because she identifies with a higher power. In your instance, it would be Christ Jesus.
I feel like I have confidence in Christ, but I do struggle a little bit with value, which is very odd, because you think they go hand in hand, but they can be different.
They can be different, absolutely, because you may find high value in the personal relationship that you have with Christ, but you may find a low value in self. Like, am I this precious gem that God calls me to be?
Because like how God treats me is so different how men treat me, you know. And I'm like, I mean, but God's perfect, but it's like there is still a genuine love that God gives me, where I'm like, he created people, so that has to you know, seep through like these men, you know.
And I think Western culture, especially here in America, the secular culture does bleed into our sphere in the Christian world. So you do see these guys in the Christian world acting very worldly, and acting out and out of character. And it definitely puts women in a place where, oh my gosh, where are all the good men? But I had this conversation with a friend of mine, and he was very adamant that a lot of women who indulge a little bit too much in the world, because maybe they're into social media too much, or maybe they are trying to be social media influencers with their blogging, with their beauty boutiques, or whatever the case may be. And they push good guys away because they don't know what love really is. And some of it is because of their upbringing. I remember talking to a girl and said that she didn't know what love looked like for a very long time, because she was with an abusive father. And it was abusive very early on. And the father verbally and physically abused both the mother and her. And he would apologize and say that I love you. So that's learned behavior. She said that she didn't know what love was, and all she understood was that, oh, my dad hits me because he loves me. So she got into a vicious and toxic cycle of looking for her father in men. And then she got involved with men that beat her.
Yeah.
And she got into this, and it's very emotionally and mentally traumatizing that you normalize that, and you come numb to it, and that's why
all you know.
And that's all you know. So that's why you fall into these relationships. It's not until she stood up and realized her worth and got herself around great people, great women of faith,
good for her,
that she was able to see what love really does look like, and when that love of God seeps into your spirit, into your soul, into your core, you start realizing, like, no, that wasn't love. I know that love does exist. I just have to believe that God has it out there for me.
Right.
And I think that's an incredible redemption story, because had she not had an encounter with Christ, she probably would have been beat up still to this day by the next guy. And because those guys unfortunately do exist. Narcissism is a real thing. It's an actual emotional detachment from reality that these guys get driven by this ego-driven masculinity, chauvinistic way of conversing and even treating other people, because that's all they know, because they picked it up from their grandfather, their father, whomever, So it is definitely a mental illness issue that needs to be approached at the root of it. And a lot of guys and a lot of girls don't know it until they're finally there.
Right.
Unfortunately, they don't. You sometimes don't really pick it up in real time.
Right. I was actually thinking, just to go to the Christian world for a second, I don't know if everyone feels this way, but I feel like it's so much easier as a Christian man to find a woman than a Christian woman finding a Christian man.
I feel the total opposite. And this is why I want to have these conversations, because you think that, and I know I'm not the only one, because my boy thinks the same way I think. It's like, yo, women got it so easy. They can just literally put themselves out there and they could find a date within.
Okay, that's true. If you're not Christian.
No, Christian women literally can go on their Instagram and entertain a DM and say, yeah, I'll meet you at XYZ place for a bite to eat.
I disagree, because men are so physical. So if they're not physically attracted, that girl doesn't even have a chance. With men, we are like, okay, they're not that cute, but then, the personality comes out.
So you're saying that we're shallow.
I mean, I didn't say that. Those are not the words that came out of my mouth.
Gosh.
But you see what I'm saying? It's true.
I think it's all relative.
Been around men. I have a lot of guy friends.
But would you agree?
I know.
But would you agree that it's all relative, though? Because not all men are wired the same.
Okay, but are we talking...
And not all Christian men are shallow.
Okay, but are we talking about a very small percentage?
I honestly don't know the percentages.
The exception to the rule?
I can go on Google right now and see what the University of Harvard may say about that.
I can tell you right now. Okay, to the Christian woman, there is 1 to 5...
Right.
1 man to 5 women.
Okay.
And they get to choose. If you're a hot Christian guy, you're married at 21. It doesn't that's over. Okay, sorry, you're hot too.
There goes the piano again.
No, but okay, you're hot too. But the thing is that that's so rare that I think that that's 1 to a million. Most Christian guys, they're with somebody, they're married, and it's done. But Javi, you are a rarity. So
I'm a rare breed, is that what you're saying?
a rare breed. Okay, of course,
you're
my
just being
point
biased because you're my friend.
My point isn't as valid because you are here single. But doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, and what I'm saying is not right.
No,
okay?
and I'm not, and also being single is okay.
Yeah.
I know that it sucks when you find yourself single, when you thought you weren't never going to be single at a certain stage of your life or a certain season of your life, and you got to come into terms with that. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, you got to have real conversations with real people and real conversations with the Lord and the God that you serve. Mm-hmm. And I started having those conversations in prayer, and I'm like, God, I didn't expect to in September of 2022 to be in single and trying to kind of pick up the pieces and rebuild myself. And, I'm back in school. I'm trying to get this podcast off the ground, and I'm doing other things. I'm raising my brother's kids because my brother's in prison. So I'm dealing with a lot of things, and it feels like there's a lot on my plate, but God's like, the plate's big enough for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have, sometimes I feel like, me personally, I tend to carry burdens I have no business carrying. You know what I'm saying? And then God kind of like nudges you and say, hey, my yoke is light.
Right.
Stop trying to drag yourself in life with the worries and the stuff that you're dealing with. And I learned to turn my worries into worship. And I've learned that maybe I do gotta work on my character a little bit, because I'm only human. I've gotten out of character, and I've said some things and done some things to hurt people around me, and I feel bad about it.
Absolutely.
And I've come.
I think at any age you can change.
Absolutely,
for sure.
And there's always room for growth.
100%.
And so I just want to encourage people that find themselves in that place where you feel shame, you feel guilt because you felt like you screwed up, and you felt like that person left you because you're a screw up. You're not a screw up, bro. You're just an imperfect human being that makes mistakes. And the love and grace should be enough to carry you through. Yeah. And by the love and grace, I mean the love and grace that God provides you. Like, seek refuge in Him. Just know that He has you. He holds you, and He always will never forsake you. Yeah. And He'll never set you up for failure. I feel like.
No, I agree. And I just think we have different levels of faith and, trust in what you believe God can do. One thing that I really, really believe with all my heart is God's timing. Because if someone like Him can see way far ahead, it's not an accident. You know what I mean?
No coincidences.
Yeah, that. But, did I see myself at 33?
I can't yell.
I don't know why I keep laughing every time it happens. So, no, but did I imagine myself at 33 single? No, especially growing up in an Indian home. By 33, you should have had your sixth kid. You know what I'm saying? So, marriage, kids, all of that was wait, and then you're 33 and you're single and you're not even close to marriage. You don't even have anyone. That's a game changer, and that's different, But I just totally believe, and some people feel it's, oh, maybe you're just not ready, I do think that I'm ready, but for whatever God believes, for me, maybe there's just one last characteristic that needs, tuning and pruning and whatever. And once that's complete, I can go. Because my biggest, prayer has always been, I know that marriage is hard. People have made that very clear, with God, if you're in love, whatever it is. So prepare me as much as I can be prepared.
So you won't be a statistic.
And it's and
because divorce,
I can't prepare as much, right? Yeah. Unless you're in it, but as much as I can. And that's my request. And if that means I'm single for longer because of that prayer being answered, I'm okay with that.
Right. Because that's a scary statistic that I was looking at the other day, talking to an elder, because we were talking about divorce and marriage, and he was like, you want to hear something scary, bro? And I'm like, what's going on? The scariest stat is divorce. The divorce rate is literally identical to secular, to Christian. Secular and Christian, same divorce rate. And you would think, because we have these standards, these morals, the moral compass is different because we follow, a Christian life, and we do things God honoring, that you would think that rate would be lower. But unfortunately, it's not. And I think it has to do with, I think the root of it all is sin. We're all sinners. We're all broken people that need to heal. And I think nowadays in this century, how culture bleeds into the Christian world is that stat. Yeah. And I feel like if you don't heal, truly heal, you're going to bleed on people that never cut you. Right. And then you're going to fail, and then be single for a while, and then not really heal, jump on the next relationship, fail again, jump on the next relationship, fail again, because you're really not giving yourself time to heal. Because I see it in my peers. Like, I remember before COVID, the trend was, on your Facebook newsfeed, you would see a peer of yours, all happy-go-lucky about their relationship, and 6 months later they're like man hating,
right?
And posting like man hate on their feed, and I'm like, wow, what happened to your great relationship? And like, I see it all the time with my peers, like, and then I look at it from an outsider looking in. I'm like, wow, either that person's not healed, or the person that they're getting involved with is broken and not healed themselves. Mm-hmm. So I do believe that you definitely need to have time to address what it is that you have to clean up, mm-hmm. that you have to heal from, mm-hmm. and identifying that. Mm-hmm. If you come to a place where you identified the fact that, hey, I have daddy issues, I need therapy, I need counseling, I need Christian people around me to hold me accountable, to hold me whatever, like, that's a start, you know, to a journey that we all should embrace to get better. Mm-hmm. So that way, when we do heal completely, like, we're ready to love because we're loving ourselves.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's this world or how people are. I just feel like at the moment of something, it gets hard, like, people just give up and they just move on to the next thing that's not as hard, you know?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that has to do with it too, that why relationships aren't lasting, because they're like, it's just not worth it. And we're very like selfish, you know? And it's like, now, like, I loved you and I gave you all this. Well, now you're not doing it like for me, and now I gotta walk, you know?
Yeah.
So.
And I think we have love skewed like, I forget what pastor it was, but I remember hearing this sermon about love being a choice and not a feeling.
Correct.
And you know, a lot of us, even in the Christian faith, we still live that Disney love. Like, it's an emotion. You don't,
but that's what you grew up watching.
It's an emotion, and it's a fairy tale. It's a fairy tale.
Or if you did everything right, like, I crossed my T's and, you know, I dotted my I's, like, I did everything right, and I got him, or I got her, like, you know, you feel very entitled, you know, to something that doesn't exist. You know, entitlement isn't even in God's kingdom.
And we want that quick gratification.
Yep.
That quick gratification. So we're in this society where love becomes an emotion, mm-hmm. and not a choice. And then we come to a place where we're in a society of, we're always seeking that quick fix, that quick gratification. Mm-hmm. We're scrolling. Some of these videos and some of these things makes us feel good, so we're on to the next one because it's funny, because it does this for you, it does that for you, it makes you feel good, it's hysterical, whatever the case may be, but it's always gratifying such in a quick pace that we don't even have time to really sit down and learn someone. Learn to love them. Learn what makes
even through their ugly.
Even through their ugly, even through their messes, even through their places of out of character moments. Like, even through that, it's like people just don't have the time anymore. Because
they think they don't have the time.
They think they don't have the time. But we just feel that we don't, because we're always on the go. We're always on the go. We're never really present. And that's convicting to me, because you know what I find myself doing? In every outing that I'm at, I'm taking pictures and I'm videoing instead of just being present.
That's okay though.
No, but
because you're building a memory.
But I understand that, but
it's whole time.
It's just like it becomes where it's the entire time.
Okay, well.
So it's like, put your phone down and enjoy the company that you're with. You know, because memories can be created in here, guys. I mean, this because then you could talk about it from years to come. Like, we could, hey, remember that one time back in 1998 where yada yada yada. Yeah, I remember. And it's always that one song that brings you back to that place. So like, your brain still works, guys. You don't have to plaster every single memory on your social media.
It's true.
You know what I mean? And like, I find myself in that. So that's why it was so convicting for me. Like, yo, like, as much as we don't want to be of this world and we don't want to be influenced by the world, because we want to influence the world with shedding the light of Jesus in the dark, like, we can't help but to be saturated in it.
And I think presence is really important. I mean, especially since my dad passed away from cancer.
Yeah.
And presence like matters to me now, because it's like you just never know, you know, if it's like the last and things like that. So I actually get highly annoyed if someone is like in the room and like not present
and on their phone.
Yes. Or not even like just antisocial or whatever. Like, why'd you come? Like, you could have just, you know, stayed home. Like, and maybe that's like wrong of me to like be annoyed about that, but like I'm just so about that, you know. And I'm someone that's like even on their phone, but if I'm having dinner with someone, as someone like that's always on their phone, I put my phone away, because I'm like, the worst thing is like when I'm talking and someone is like, and I'm like,
you're not paying attention.
Like, and they're like, no, I heard every word. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't really hear me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference between like
hearing and listening,
memorizing every word I said, and like hearing me. And that helps with value, right? I'm not going to feel valued if you're not like engaging in conversation with me. You know? Yeah.
So guys, get off your phones when you're engaging with women. Get off your phone. But you mentioned your father and the loss, and if it's okay,
of course.
When you experienced that loss, I can't imagine what you were feeling, because I haven't lost a parent, but I was there when it was going on, and I remember going to your home to celebrate his life, and to see the family and to see the culture, your culture, where you come from, that Indian culture, and to see it unravel the way it did in a time of loss.
Right.
That did something to me. That like stirred my faith. It stirred my spirit. But I just couldn't imagine what you were dealing with internally. How did that affect you in a negative or positive way, looking back in that? Because he passed away in 2014.
Yeah, so it's been a while, but I mean, it doesn't feel like that.
Right.
It feels like
yesterday.
Just as fresh. Yes, exactly. Positively affected, I would say, was, you know, you could either go left or right, like after like a death like that. Like you could either spiral down and like stay like that, or you can thrive. And my dad was like very much like the type that would, you know, not want me to like wallow in like, you know, sadness all the time, you know, and like, why would I if he's like perfect and like having a great time right now, you know? So like, it doesn't make sense that I would be like that. But of course, like at first it was like so tragic. Like I couldn't deal with it. I was like more avoidant of pain, you know, because I couldn't understand how you could like feel the pain and grieve, but then also move forward in life. Like I felt like they did not like go hand in hand. If I had to grieve, life had to stop. And like who I was had to stop. So I avoided grief for like a very long time, you know? And it comes out in pockets like where I'm like sobbing, you know? And so positively, it's like, you know, I saw when someone like, say you're not as close or there was characteristics you didn't like, but once they die, like you kind of remember the good parts of them. And like one thing that my dad did was he never judged people off their reaction and their sin. Like he always knew like their core, you know? And so I was like, I promised myself that I'm going to do that. And I realized like, it's like a whole nother like world I tapped in of like love, because like, you know, say there's someone that's like gentle all the time and then they freak out and they yell at you and everyone's mad now. But it's like, that person never freaks out like that. Let them freak out for a moment, you know? Like, and it's like, people will write those people off and the friendship's over and it's done. Yeah. And I've had that so many times in my life.
I had that happen to me.
They'll just leave and I'm like, we were friends for 6 years. Like, where are you going? You know? But there's no grace for that. And like, I felt like I learned a lot of grace, like through his death. And, you know, I mean, I'm still working on it. I'm not like the best at it, but it's like I don't know, you realize like what's really important in life, like when someone like leaves you like that, you know. Negatively, of course, it's like, you know, you just don't imagine at 25, like you think of like your wedding day, you think of the time that you're gonna have a child, like you think of your graduation, you think of all the moments that they're just not gonna be there, you know. And it's funny because I was never mad at God about that, but I was very much like, God like talks to me very clearly, and I feel like he tells me a lot of things, but he didn't tell me that my dad was dying. And like, that was tough for me, you know? So when my dad did die, you know, I was like very bitter about that because I'm like, you could have easily told me in a dream or like, you know, something like, hey, just to let you know, he's going.
Yeah.
But it was a part of God's plan that I wasn't. And like, you know, my mom had told me later, you know, it's good that you didn't know because you were one of the few people that didn't treat him like he was dying. And like that you can, you know, like everybody's like, you know, so bad for you. Like, oh, you have cancer, you're dying. Like, and I'm like, oh, you're going to live. Like, hope, you know, and it makes them feel better, you know?
For sure.
And like they're not like some charity case of, you know, all this stuff. And so I'm like, you know what, I can take that like with me. And my dad actually, it was like 6 weeks before, I was a teacher, and it was 6 weeks before my summer. And I was like, oh, I'll just go and like visit him, like, you know, during the summer, because he had to go to India, because like here, you know, they were just saying hospice at this point. But my dad's like, until I walk that girl down the aisle, like, you got to give me something to fight with. And they were like, we can do chemo again. And he's like, all right, do it again. And for anyone that's experienced chemo, like, he said, like, you know, on your worst enemy, you wouldn't want to wish that. And like, it's one thing to know what it feels like once and hate it, and then like do it again, you know, like versus like the unknown, you know? So he did it again. Nothing happened, obviously. But in India at the time, they had like these vaccines that like had a 25% chance of like helping him. Like supposedly it would like go in and like zap the cancer like cells, and then like he'd be fine. So he went, and I remember being like, I should go. You know, because like, what if, you know, something happens? But I had 6 more weeks left, you know?
Wow.
And I'm like, and then I'll have 3 months with him. So I get out like, you know, June 3rd, right? So I'm, you know, he's gone for 6 weeks and all this stuff, and then my dad dies June 2nd. And I'm just like, what? You know, like, again, God,
just
like could you not have
punch in
the gut? Like, but again, like my mom was saying, he wanted people to like know him like when he was well. You know, and it's like, even like, she's like, even if he would have had like not wanted me there, you know, but he had no choice. Like, I was there, but it's like, if he had a choice, he wouldn't even want my mom, you know, like that's how much he like,
and grieving is such it can be a complicated thing to understand. Do you feel like grieving is a journey? Or can you embrace the grieving process as a journey?
You could. I think there's just so much to it, and there's so many levels, and like everyone does it differently, and there's no like right or wrong way, you know? And it's like, you could not do it for this time and then all of a sudden do it all the time. Like, it's just a lot. And like, losing a parent is different than losing like a grandparent or aunt, you know, like unless you truly have lost like a parent, like it's just a different type of pain. Like, just like losing a kid, like I would never know that, you know, and it's just like really hard. So
it's just a different level of pain too, I could imagine.
And you know what's weird? Like, I had a boyfriend at the time, and you know, after that, God had like told me to like break up with him and stuff. And I'm like, I just lost my dad. I'm gonna keep this guy. Like, you're out of your mind, you know? And I just thought, like, there's no greater pain than like losing like a parent and stuff. And can I be honest? Like, as crazy as it sounds, having to sacrifice my boyfriend and like breaking up with him was a harder pain.
Really?
Yeah. Like, the heartbreak was devastating. Intense. Because like with your dad dying, it's like there's a finality, and like you know where he ended up, and like it was good. But like with your boyfriend, that God's just not giving you a reason why, and he's just like, just no. You don't know what it could have been. You know?
Can you explain that for those that may not know what that really means? Like, hey, God told me to break up with.
It's
like how was that process like?
It's just
prior to making that final decision. And
because he definitely asked me a few times before.
Laying down that mallet, pow.
Well, it was funny because I went down very quickly after my dad, obviously. You know, and life was just. I mean, I went into depression, and you know, I was very close with my parents, so you know, it's just one of those things. And like, you know, it was just, you know, I lived, like my brother and my sister, they lived away, but I lived in the house like with them. So when you know, you just feel that void, you know, it's a big house and it's silent and, you know, he's loud,
different.
You know, it's so different, you know? So, I went down very quickly and I just felt like my life wasn't getting better. And God was like, hey, you need to break up with your, and I'm like, are you seriously? Like, give me a break, you know? So of course I didn't listen. And I actually like held on tighter to my boyfriend. And I'm
what signs did you feel? What did you, or did you audibly hear the voice of God say,
it's so hard to
break
explain.
Up with him.
Because it's not audible, but it's like...
it's like the Holy Spirit kind of nudging you kind of way.
Yeah, but it's like a voice. Like, I don't know how to... Okay, so the best way I can explain it is like, if I leave here, I know your voice. Yeah. And if I think about our conversations, in my head, I hear your voice, but you're not there.
But I'm not there.
So his voice is different from anyone else's. So I just know it.
And that's just a byproduct of the intimate relationship you have with God.
I mean, I think so, but sometimes I just think God speaks to different people in the way that they'll actually like listen. Yeah. And I think he knows I'm very stubborn, and if Javi, you know, he tells me, I may not listen to him, you know? And so he's like, great, like now I have to literally tell her, you know what I'm saying? Like, or people through the word, like people can obey like through that and they know it's God and they do it. Like me, if I read it, I'm like, it's probably not me, you know? Yeah. But now I can't deny when he's literally saying it. Right. So I don't think it's anything like someone special. I don't think it's like, oh, she has this gift or what. I just think that's the way, like for me, because he knows that I'm pretty disobedient.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, so, that's so good. Yeah, because God knows every angle, every like bit of us, right, from the inside
like,
out.
Like I'm not good, you know, and it's not this like. Oh,
so you just felt like, so hindsight 2020, you felt like, wow, I really needed to detach myself from that situation because there was a season where I needed to be in, where he might be refining me or guiding me or strengthening me, and I needed to be alone and not with someone in that particular...
Right, like, it's your security blanket, right? And like, you know, people, my argument, because I will always argue, you know, is like, I'm telling God, I'm like, you know, people are in abusive relationships and they stay. Like, this guy's perfect. Like, we get along great. Like, nothing's wrong with the guy. Like, there's no rhyme or reason for me to break up, you know? And God, if you don't know him, that's who he is. No rhyme or reason. And very much illogical and very much not what you think. And so, honestly, it makes so much sense that he would say that. But for me, it was just, I know he was trying to get rid of everything that was like between me and God, you know? So he, like, long story short, I told him, I said, you know what? God said, can you just give me 1 year of your life? Like, dedicate your whole year because it will set you up for the rest of your life. And I said, 1 year sounds like a really long time. Yeah. And I was like, I could give you 7 days. Okay?
Oh my gosh.
So, and I know, like I said, I
was going to say a month.
Yeah. No, I couldn't even do it. I'm like, I can't. Like, and it's funny because I don't recommend anyone like speaking to God like that, but also God can handle it, right? Yeah. So, you know, you got to do your process like the way that you do it. But I told God, I said, I can give you 7 days. If nothing changes in my life, if it looks the same in 7 days, I am keeping my boyfriend, and you got to go with this whole, like, we got to break up thing, okay? Yeah. And I said, but if somehow my life changes in 7 days, I will give you that year.
Isn't it funny how we make deals with God?
I know, it's so bad.
Don't make deals with God. But we do that because that's like the human in us, right?
Yeah.
Like, we make these deals, and God's... I could just picture God literally laughing.
Yeah.
Like,
he's like, okay,
so you want to make a deal? Really?
Like, I got you in the 7 days. I'll literally make your life better tomorrow.
I know,
you know
right?
What I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, he's such a big picture vision-wise, big picture God. Because I think in life, right, we tend to look at our problem in such a close-up, like when we look at our problem in such a close proximity, it looks huge. Sure. But if we step a couple feet back, a couple of 100 yards back, it doesn't look as big. And then we forget how big our God is, right? He's so much bigger than our problems, so much bigger than the crisis that we may be going through, I should say. Right. And it's like, and at the same time, on that same side of that coin, He's a big picture God. And we don't look at life in the big picture lens because we're so focused on that one piece of the puzzle. And we're trying to jab that puzzle into that one corner that's not going in.
Right.
And it's maybe because you're not positioned right.
Sure.
And you're not positioning that piece correctly. And at the end of the day, we don't have to worry so much about that one piece of the puzzle when God's looking at the bigger picture on the grander scheme of things.
He's very calm about it.
And it's
and
more
we're
like
freaking out.
Yeah, and it's more like on the grand scheme of things way of navigating through our lives. Like this is who he is. He's sovereign. He knows it all. He's he's just everything. Like, and we tend to minimize him and get into this minimalistic frame of thought because we're clouded with our stuff.
Right.
with our breakups, with our heartbreak, with our traumas, with our healing, with like all these things kind of clouds.
But I think we also assume who God is. And he's just really not it. You know what I mean? Like through experience, I have seen way different parts of God. Like how I grew up, like in the Indian church, it's like it's like an Indian God where it's like, make sure you have straight A's. Like, and it's like, God could care less. Like, you know what I mean? Like, hey, make sure you don't like have like a job that doesn't pay you well.
Right.
That God, you know what I mean? It's like, which God are you talking about?
Right,
you know what I'm saying? And it's like, you just grow up like the one, no sin, like don't, like there's no grace, there's no repent, like, and it's just like, wait, this is what I thought I knew. And then God like shows up and he's like, nothing like that.
Right.
And like, it's amazing to me. You know, like this God that's telling me to break up with my boyfriend, like really cares about me. Like it's not to harm my life. Like it's not to make me sad and angry and like heartbroken because I really was, you know, it was because like he loved me. And that doesn't look like love. Like we always think love has to be like wrapped in a great present, like, and beautiful wrapping and all that. But like sometimes love looks different, and like that's why people can't even handle love. Like your friend that you were talking about, like if a man truly like loved her at the time when she had all those daddy issues, she can't even recognize it, and like that's what people do even with God. Like God's loving in a way they can't handle or they're not used to. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that we sometimes confuse the pain that he's causing with the pain that we think the devil's causing.
Right.
And if we don't know any better, we think that the pain that we're going through, it's the devil's attacking me. And sometimes we just give the devil way too much credit.
No, for sure. Some of it's us,
Yeah, so. Some of it is self-afflicting. We do dumb things that are self-afflicting.
But not car issues. Car issues is definitely definitely.
True. I'm gonna go with
when
that.
I get a flat tire, I'm like, that ain't me.
That's the devil. That ain't God. Yeah, for sure. But like I was saying, like sometimes we have to go through that refining, right? And like when we go through that fire, we think it's like, oh man, it's hell on earth. You know what I'm saying? But it's really not. It's you're going in that fire with God. Right. Like God's in there in that fire with you. Yeah. And he's refining you, he's shaping you, and he's molding you for the person that he wants you to be. Because not only does he want to bless your life, but he wants to give you an opportunity to bless others around you. Because he wants you to influence the sphere that you're in. You know what I'm saying? And to show glory.
But your character matters. Like all this like even this marriage stuff, like it's so small in the Bible. Like if it was we make it such a big deal, but like how many times we're like marriage, like it doesn't even talk about it that much. So it's not that big of a deal, you know? Like, and so God cares about character, how much of like your heart, like he's looking for, like all these other things. And it's like, we emphasize like things that God doesn't even emphasize, which is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I think marriage is a byproduct of what you do to
sacrificial
love and loving yourself, loving your neighbor, and loving God.
Right.
And I think through that loving yourself, your neighbor, and God, not in that order, but through all that, I think God will just say, you know what? Here's that person for you. And you'll know, wow, that's an answered prayer, or wow, that's the person that I necessarily didn't want, but I needed. Right. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes God just wants you to realize that it's not what you want, it's what you need. Right. And sometimes you'll just place people in your life that you need. Right. You know, you need a Neeza in your life. You know what I'm saying? And so like, it goes with friendships, it goes with relationships, with romantic relationships, it goes with professional relationships and partnerships and business partnerships and stuff. It goes all across the board. And if you just miss the mark and you don't realize the people around you, you're going to take those people for granted.
Yep.
Or the flip side of that is like you're going to get involved with the wrong people, and they're going to burn you and like take all your money if you're get into a business venture with the wrong crooked person.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to read all those things, and by getting to that place, it's like you got to know who you're serving, who you are in Christ, and the people that really matter should stay within that inner circle. Because you got to remember too, God did have 12 disciples. That was his outer circle. His inner circle was those 3 dudes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
He like really did life with those 3.
Because really, think about your circle. There's only 1 or 2.
Yeah.
You know, that truly like, you know,
that
love
one
you
person
well.
that call you, that one person that will hold you accountable. You know, that person that will text you randomly.
Right.
You know, I got a couple people that randomly text me to check in on me and things like that. And you need people in your life
100%.
like that. And if you don't, get plugged into a community, man.
Javi will.
You know, I will be your friend. Neeza, not so much. Because she's protecting her energy.
Exactly. That's too much.
But speaking of protecting your heart and things like that, since your father's passing, how has your relationships been? Like, not just romantic relationships, but just relationships in general.
Yeah, I feel like definitely they've been better, like because of like everything. You know what I mean?
Have
like,
you been more intentional? With
for sure.
People?
Like more intentional, but more like
because I haven't felt that intentionality.
And yet, how did I get here?
Hey!
Yeah. Nicely done. But no, it's been good. But I think dating wise, like, you know, how do I put it? There was one guy.
Dating are for losers.
Yeah, I don't date. Because I just feel like I know. But okay, you know what's funny? I hear from God, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to love, very hazy. Like,
yeah, right?
Very cloudy there.
It's like, God, why are you acting like Genie? Because you know how Genie will grant you these 3 wishes, but I can't make you fall in love with people. It's like, why is God operating in that? Why is he operating in that same vein?
Right? So I don't know about that part. But there was one guy where he was spiritually on paper amazing. So I'm like,
he was like one of those on paper guys.
Yeah, I was like, he's it for sure. Like that's all I need. And he was like a real man. Okay, I have a problem like having someone pay for me, and I always like pay in my cover. Yeah. My girls hate it because they're like you know, and like they're they're really sweet and they love me well. Yeah. But I just have this like problem. Right. And so and like guys these days will totally let me pay, which is so ill, but I'm like, okay, whatever. But this guy that was good on paper actually paid for me. And I was like flabbergasted, Javi, okay? And I'm like, okay. So he pays. Okay, that's a winner. He reads the Bible, winner. Like he prays, like all this stuff, okay? This is when I found out that chemistry and attraction are 2 different things, which I had no idea. Uh-huh. So the attraction of the, wow, he's so spiritual, he's this or whatever, great. Chemistry, nada. Like nothing. And I thought, because I was in my spiritual head, that God was doing this to save my purity part of my, like, you know, because I want to be pure, right? You know, and, you know, wait for all of that, like in my marriage. So I was like, oh, God turned the lens off for me. Yeah. This is a win-win. But when I was with him, I'm like, you know, and that's, I'm like, so is it like, was it cringe though? It was a little cringe.
Like that's how uneven
like
the chemistry was.
He was a good-looking guy.
The chemistry was just off. Like it wasn't like a good time to be around. I don't get it.
It was like
awkward at times.
No, it wasn't awkward. It was like, wow, I'm really not attracted to you, like at all.
Intellectually.
No, intellectually, yes. It like physically.
Oh,
remember how we were talking about you were shallow?
Yeah.
I might have been shallow. So, okay. I never looked at guys like, I always think like personality is great, this stuff. Yeah. But like, you know, okay, Jackie Hill Perry said it best. You know why I love her? Because she says it how it is and it's like true. Yeah. And I love it. Okay. She was like, Christian women have a hard time because Christian guys are just so corny. Again, exception to the rule. Anyways, so they're just like, she's like, they just don't have any swag, you know what I mean? And it's like all these girls, like, you know, like we're not like we're a little corny, but like that much, you know?
Yeah.
And he was just so corny. And I can do a little corny, right? I can do it. I just can't do all of it.
So he was a Colonel Corn of all corniness. Yo, my bad, King. If you're watching, we don't mean that.
Oh my god.
I'm sure you're doing well in life.
But it's like, okay, so again, you are the exception to the rule because you know, Javi got a little swag. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool because he loves Jesus. But like, again, that's 1 out of 100 guys. And like,
I know solid dudes though that are not corny. You got to hang out with my crew.
Okay, but like not to be like that. Like they're probably short too.
No, there's some tall. There's some tall dudes.
That's another thing. I'm very tall.
Why has that become a thing now?
Okay, I'm just saying.
Like he has to be over 6 foot.
No, those are 4'3" girls saying that. Okay, I have a right.
Oh yeah, because you're 5'10". Yes, you're tall. Yeah, you got it right.
But it's true. That shouldn't be important. It's important to me.
Because you want to wear. But you don't even wear heels though.
Yeah, I don't. Because then I would be gigantic.
Like a 6 footer. Yeah.
Like, we're not doing that. But yeah, so it's just he was, you know, and I'm not saying I'm the coolest person in the world. That's not what I'm saying, right?
You're definitely not.
But I'm just like, and I felt like bad about it. I'm like, this is wrong. Like, this is wrong of me. Like, maybe this is something like, you know? But then one of my girls was like, dude, like, do you really think that God would?
I'm sure one of your girls said, stop being so picky.
No, well, no, actually,
I'm sure you've had those conversations.
I'm surprised. No, because I wasn't mad at God about my dad's death, but I never got mad at God. Can I tell you I was mad at God? Because I thought he was my husband. And I'm like, see, this is where we're going to have beef. Like, in my whole 33 years, I never got mad at him. I was mad at him. I was like, if this is my husband, I'm so mad at you. I was like, this might be the end of my road of obedience. Like, I was so upset about it. But that my girl was like, dude, like, do you really think God would put you with someone you're not attracted to?
True.
But here's where the lie comes in. Yeah. Like, I do believe that. Because I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, I struggle with that. I struggle that God would give me everything I desire.
I think to a degree, you have to have some physical attraction for sure. And then past that, you got to get deeper, right?
Yeah, but all of that was there, but I couldn't. It was like almost in reverse.
Okay.
And in my head, I'm like, this is like, you know, and I'm like, God, like, show me attraction, like everything and all. But it just was not coming.
Yeah.
And you know, here's something wrong about like me for sure.
All right, listen up, girls. Take notes.
Is that if the guys, and I do feel like women do this too, but I will just talk on my behalf, that if the guy's hot, you'll let mistakes slide. If they are not hot, you're harder on them. Like when they do things, you're like, oh, how could you do that? But then if a hot guy does it, you're like, oh, that's fine. And that's wrong.
Yeah,
you know? So I
wrong.
Felt like I was doing that, like with him, where I was like, man, if he was just hot, I would have let all this slide. You know? I was like really thinking that, you know? But I struggled my whole life thinking that God would give me the desires of my heart. And like, that's wrong too, you know? But it's like, even when it came to football, like I was like, there's no way that like, unless it's like ministry or like the worship team or whatever, like God's going to allow me to do it and do it well, you know? And it's like, there's no way he's going to let me play flag football. Like, but he'll totally let me serve at the church picnic. You know what I mean? Like, and you have this like misconstrued like notion of God, and like God wants to see us happy, you know? And it's like, we just don't want it to be like an addiction or an idol or whatever. And I mean, sometimes I definitely do idolize like football, and I have to bring myself back.
And sometimes we find ourselves chasing that high of happiness.
Sure.
Because, you know, feelings are fecal. You know, they're fleeting. You're never going to be happy forever. You're never going to be sad forever.
Right.
I think that joy is a little different. When you find joy in the Lord, it's a different arena altogether. Because even through joy, you can be sad. Sure. But you can be so assured that He would take you through through your sadness, and still find joy in it. You may not find it in that present time that you're feeling that way, but when you come out of it, you'll find joy to be so tangible, so like...
Yeah, it reminds me of an old artist, like her name is Ginny Owens, and she's blind, and she was a Christian everything, but she went to like apply to be a high school like music teacher.
Yeah.
And they like her resume was like amazing, and they brought her in and found out she was blind, and they like did not like give her the job, and then she became like a famous singer like for the Christian world, and she was telling her testimony and was like, I mean, I got rejected so many times, but like this is like obviously better, what I mean? And
God
like,
had a plan, essentially.
Yeah, but her song was like, through that was I'll walk through the fire like if you want me to. And it's like, even though the fire is like hard and like you'll get burned and all of that, but like if you love me the way that you do and you've asked me to do it, I'm gonna do it. And like that was like a deep, deep love. And like another interviewer had told her like, if there was one thing you wish like God could grant you, like, would it be sight? And she said no. She's like, because when I get to heaven, the first person I get to see is Jesus.
Oh my gosh, cry.
And it's just like that kind of faith of being like, I know God would never ask me to do this, like unless like it was for me, and it's like, because you love me the way that you do, I will walk through the fire if you ask me to.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That is amazing.
Amazing.
Wow.
So like even with like
that's encouraging, actually.
Yeah, like even like with my dad's death and everything, like it's just you didn't take him like for my sorrow,
right?
Like you took him like for my character and like for my life, and like, and I believe like good for my life, and like like the song like Hold It All Together, it's like I will see like the goodness of like God, like I believe that, and like even though I always say like my biggest quote is like even though things aren't good, like God is still good, and it's like between heartbreak and all of that, and even right after my breakup, like God had told me to quit my career, and I'm like, man, you're really like having a field day here, and it just doesn't sound like, it sounds like a mean God. It doesn't sound like love,
right?
Like, hey, I'm gonna take your dad, give up, the love of your life, like give up your career. Like, what do you mean? How do you tell an Indian mom, hey, by the way, God told me that I should quit. Yeah. And it's like,
I'm just going to lay in this couch for a while and like, see what happens.
Yeah, and it's like, my mom would be like, no, God would tell you to do that. Like, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And it's crazy because my career really, then not even that, he told me after, I want you to like work at Buffalo Wild Wings. And I'm like,
work up what?
Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, I remember you were working there.
Yeah, I worked there. Because he told, I'm like, I'm just coming
like,
from...
want to hit a B-dubs, bro? I got you.
Hey, spicy garlic and blazing.
Hey, habanero, mango habanero.
I know, that was always your favorite.
Yeah.
It is a top favorite.
Yeah.
But he like told me that, and then like my mom's all crying, like she's like, oh my God, like she went from a Florida educator to busting tables. Like, tables. My life was over. Like culturally it was so bad. Like even American culture, like I felt like in both of my worlds I was failing, like miserably.
But this is you, God.
But this was God, and like it was crazy because my career now is I own a tutoring company, and like he navigated that, like I would have never been like where I was if I stayed as a teacher in the school. And honestly, I don't want to be I have mad respect for people educators in the school now. Yeah. You have to try to protect kids' lives, your own life. Like it's hard, but for me, like that's where my career is, like singleness. I had dreamed of a wedding since I was a kid, but I'm very content.
Like every young girl that
every
watches
girl.
Cinderella and Snow White.
But I couldn't believe that at 33 I'm content, and then like losing my dad, I thought I could never like move forward in my life, but like I am, and like I give all credit, to God.
And I think, and listening to that story, I feel, because me knowing the God that we know, right?
Right.
Like I know it's God because He gives us peace far from our understanding. Mm-hmm. Like I remember experiencing peace that I couldn't understand.
Right.
Like going through some dark times back in the day, where I just felt this like feeling of peace. Mm-hmm. waking up in the morning and just feeling this peace, and I just don't understand it, and I don't need to understand it because I know it's coming from God.
Right.
That's like more than enough to like that. That right there is just more, just more reason to just keep serving Him, being obedient, just staying the course,
right,
and try not to not to take control over what it is that He's controlling.
Yeah, and like in 2015, like after I lost everything, like I actually tried to commit suicide. So it's like crazy because people like meet me now and they're like, they can't imagine that I was like going to take my life, but like I was, you know? And it's crazy because my mom and like my mentor and like my best friends, like they're trying to convince you to like not do it, but it's very like, you just want the pain to stop, right? And so
because you become so numb to it.
You'll just do anything to, like, even the most loving people in your life, you can't hear them, because you're like, it has nothing to do with them. It's like, I can't live like another day, you know? And I remember the only person that stopped me was the voice of God, you know? And I was literally like getting ready to, and God in a very calm voice, which probably annoyed me even more because I'm like, okay, I'm about to die, you know? And He's like, hey, you know, and they're like, kind of thing. But He had said, hey, can you do me a favor? And I'm like, are you kidding? Like, I'm kind of busy right now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to take my life here, you know? Yeah. And He's like, yeah. So could you like do it? And I'm like, well, might as well just do one last hurrah before I go. And He's like, yeah, can you write this down? And I said, sure. So I get a piece of paper. He's like, no, like on a bigger piece. I'm like, wow, we're getting very specific. So it was like this big piece of paper. And then my hand just starts writing, and it says like 2015 goals. And I'm like, the heck? I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I'm about to die. So I don't know whose goals these are.
Giving me chills, man.
And I'm not even a goal-oriented person, So I'm just like, I write, and then it would like write, like, it was like 16 things of like, love God, remember the good times with your dad, like spend time with your mom, like be more loving, self-discipline, like all these things. And I'm like, mind you, I feel like the low of the low. Right. These feel like way too out there. Way too far. Get godly friends, like all. And I'm like, He's like, great. He's like, put it on your wall. He's like, read them out loud, and I read it. And He's like, you're gonna accomplish every single one of these goals this year. Wow. And I'm like I can't even like see tomorrow. And He's like, you're looking too far into your past and looking way too far into your future. He's like, I'm with you. He's like, one day at a time. And I just sat there like, my first thought actually was like, life is so like this here and like forever in heaven and all this stuff. Yeah. Why would a God care that much about this life of mine? The one that goes that quickly. Yeah. Like how deep that love is, I can't explain it. Yeah. And like, you think my life like of this matters that much, right? That you would keep me another day here. Wow. And 8 years later, like here I am. Hey. And like life is good and life is great. And it's like, this is the God that people don't know. Yes. You know what I mean? And it's like and that's the only thing that keeps me going, man. My calling is to tell people about a God that does these things. Yeah. And it's like no one knows that. They don't know the God that's gonna take you out of your career, take you to Buffalo Wild Wings, and then become a business owner. You don't know that God. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's not that I have everything. I'm not married with a bunch of kids and like some millionaire. Like it doesn't mean that you get everything that's good, in this life and stuff. And it's just like, my life is hard. And it's okay. But, and like more of the pain that I feel now is, more people leave me. Like, like they abandon me. Like, they're friends with me a minute and then they're gone. Like I snap on them once, they're out of there, you know? And it's like, man, like, or I'm vulnerable. Like, I don't know if you believe in Enneagrams and stuff. I'm an Enneagram 8 and, vulnerability is hard, but when I do it, it turns people off. Yeah. And they walk and then you're like, well, why the heck did I even tell you how I felt? My therapist says you're with the wrong people if they walk. When you tell them something. My best friend about presence, like she would always be on her phone. And I told her once, I would really love it if like you were here with me. Yeah. And in an instant, every time she visited me, she was off her phone. And I saw,
Wow.
I was like, wow, that's so rare in my life, but that should be the standard.
That
like,
should be,
like if you love someone, you'll do it. Like, you know, she had told me like, hey, sometimes your comments, you know how I am. And I was like, oh, dang, can I do it? Yes, I could do it. You know? And like, I, for her, of course, like, why wouldn't you, if someone's being honest with you, like, hey, this hurt my feelings. Like, why would you leave them? Or they turn it on me and then they're the mad one. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Like, you know, and I deal with a lot of that, you know, in my life. And that's like, you know, more of the pain that I like feel and things like that. But, you know, God is like my greatest friend, like more than like the father and the boyfriend and all that. Like he is my truest friend.
I love that. So get to know that God, guys. And if you have questions, always DM me. Thank you for sharing. That was amazing.
Thanks for having me.
And I know we talked and covered a lot of things. We spoke about, you know, our past traumas, our relationships. We talk about grieving. We even touched on suicide that I didn't think we were going to touch on, but I really appreciate that because that's something that's dear and near to my heart because I dealt with mental health myself. I dealt with people growing up who took their lives over silly things, looking back at that. And so if you're watching and you feel stirred to reach out, I'm going to actually leave the national hotline for suicide because we did touch on that briefly. And if you know someone that's struggling, if it's you that's struggling with suicidal thoughts and trying to off yourself, taking your life away is definitely not the answer. Don't make a permanent decision based on temporary emotions, you know. So I'm definitely going to leave that information on there for those who need to seek help or those that know someone that you feel that needs the help because we're not alone in this life. Everyone has their own struggles. Everybody's dealing with some stuff. It's great that we get to allow people into our lives and know that we do believe in a God that has this abundant grace, this boundless love that we pretty much talked about all throughout this episode. So if you guys don't know about that God, you can contact me. We could talk a little bit more about that. And if you felt that this is a video that someone needs to hear, whether it be a man or a woman, to listen to this conversation, feel free to do that. Like, share, and subscribe to the show. Thank you for coming. Oh, but before you go, I got to go through polls. So every girl that's been on the show, I ask these poll questions. So we're going to go over some poll questions before we go. And the trick is, I'm going to give you two options. And the trick is, you can't. Oh yes. You can't do both. You do this on your story, right? Yes. Yes. You can't pick both.
Okay. Yeah.
It's one or the other. All right. So this is catered to specifically for Neeza. Hold on a second. Okay. Ready?
Ready.
We're gonna go. First one. Ready? Curry or Tabasco sauce?
Ew.
Curry. Okay. I think this is gonna be an easy one because I'm gonna
literally hate Tabasco.
Yeah, there's gonna be easy ones for you, but I'm gonna get you to the hard ones later. All right. T-bone steak or filet mignon.
Filet. Stop it.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. You ever look at my story?
All right. Now we're gonna get to board games.
Yeah.
Parcheesi or Chutes and Ladders?
Would you guys judge me if I don't know either?
Okay. I'm gonna go another one. Uno or spades?
Oh, Uno.
Yeah, I'm such an Uno guy too.
Draw four, baby.
Yeah. And I'm so aggressively competitive with that game.
Same.
All right. Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Hiking or
whatever the next one is.
Dancing.
Yeah, as long as not hiking. Heck okay. No. Dancing, for sure.
Nice. Okay. Drake or Chris Brown?
Oh, interesting. I gotta go with Chris Brown.
Chris Brown?
Yeah.
Okay.
Definitely.
We're gonna go with more artists here. Post Malone or Kanye West?
Okay, that's crazy because we're talking about their music, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kanye West.
It's because Post Malone as a person. All right, we're just gonna leave it at that. Podcast or radio?
That's hard. Probably radio.
Cool. Thanks.
Except this one.
Hey,
you didn't say yours.
Yeah, you say if you.
No, ask if it's yours or radio.
No, we're gonna go.
Okay, I was gonna say radio.
Okay. All right. A couple more. I got a couple more. Hold on. Oh, you made me lose my spot.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Texting or calling?
Ooh, texting.
Texting? So you're a texter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
I
if you ever are dying, text me.
Okay.
I got you. I am a very fast responder.
Okay, well, I'm going to test that in the upcoming weeks.
Well, you're probably not going to die in text, but
okay.
Just saying.
Waffles or pancakes?
Waffles.
Okay.
100%.
Bacon or sausage?
Oh my God. I don't even know why I even thought about that. Bacon. 100% bacon.
Okay. Small churches or mega churches?
So many pros and cons.
Yeah. You got to pick one, though.
Mega.
I knew you were going to say mega. Shouts to Christ Fellowship. Hey. All right, we're almost done. All right. So we're going to
I love this. This is cute.
Mega churches, small churches.
Don't ask me between Buffalo Wild Wings or Outback. That will be very difficult.
I was just going to literally Outback.
Was that your next one?
No, that was close to my next one.
Oh my God.
But now we're getting Bible. Ready?
Okay, Bible.
The book of Psalms or the book of Proverbs?
Proverbs.
Proverbs? Okay. Now this is it. B-dubs or Outback?
I can't believe you had that. Why would you do that
Because
to me?
A, you go to Outback every other day, and B, you worked at B-dubs. That's why I asked.
Why would you do that to me? That's so
That's the whole point of the game.
Okay, Outback.
Outback, let's go. Okay, and the last one, and now you have to give me a why. And I say it to every one of my guests.
Okay.
And I get different answers, which is great. Loyalty or respect, and why?
Ooh, loyalty.
Okay.
Because I don't care if you disrespect me. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't disrespect me. No, I just feel like loyalty could be so long term. It's that one solid thing versus respect can you could be respectful one day and disrespectful next. Loyalty is not you're loyal to now you're not loyal.
Yeah.
It's very solid.
Okay.
Either you're loyal or you're not. And I like loyalty. I love the defending because I feel like I defend everybody.
Yeah.
So if someone defends me, I'm like, hey, I like it.
Okay.
You know?
Good answer.
Yeah.
I like it.
Indians, they're used to respect,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
We grew up with that, but we're not growing up with loyalty, right?
Yeah,
so I think it's more rare.
I like that. That gets a round of applause. Thank you. So, that being said, hopefully this is not your last time here. You're more than welcome to come back.
So nice.
This is fun, right? And you were nervous. Look at you.
Nervous. I was so nervous.
But this is fun, and I do hope that down the road you come back and we could talk and chop it up and talk about other things. Yeah. So I thank you. I love you. Thank you for blessing this show.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. Until the next time, guys. Every Wednesday we got new content, new episodes. Catch my clips on TikTok at Kingdom Talks. Catch everything that I'm going to leave on the description. Please follow and like and all that good stuff. Till next time. Peace.